Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Money Radio. My name is Kingsley Liu, and this evening we'll be looking at airport concessioning and the safety of jobs in the aviation industry. Just this week past, the Minister of Aviation, when he was addressing some stakeholders, he said that those airports to be concessioning, there's no problem with them. Workers' job will not be affected. But then, since then, there have been reactions from members of the public. A lot of people are skeptical that eventually it may not be as the minister said. It may just be another political statement to calm frayed nerves and to douse what might amount in the long run to be a protest. To interrogate this whole arrangement, I have with me here in the studio today Mr. Godwin Ike. Mr. Godwin is a seasoned expert in the industry, very vast, very knowledgeable. Sir, you're welcome to the studio.
Oh, thank you, Kingsley. My dear viewers, please welcome to the program.
Okay, well, you just heard what I said. Mm-hmm. But the problem here is also that it's not just about concessioning airports. Why concession the viable ones? And why not go for the ones that are not viable and see what can be done to bring them up to speed? And again, the workers returning their jobs, is it possible given the permutations in the industry across the globe?
First of all, let's understand the whole, theme called concessioning. Of course, it comes from the verb concede and give away your rights in a property. The property is still yours, but you're asking somebody else to take possession, manage, and make it better and more profitable. That's the whole idea, the whole essence. Now, it is worrisome that of all the airports we have in Nigeria that are struggling to survive, airports that are really, struggling to, get the aviation business done as well as can be, that the choice our Honorable Minister Hadisorika has made is to pick the 4 viable and most successful ones to give away. In all reality, it doesn't make sense. Those that want to come and invest and help us make our airports better ones should be looking at those that are struggling, those smaller airports that are not getting the required volume of passengers to be, for purpose of, profitability, and those that are not yet as equipped as they should be in order to meet the required, standards as stipulated, by ICAO and the rest of them. That should be the desire of those calling the shots of the aviation ministry. Now, the idea of giving away the successful ones is sentencing the other ones that are not as viable to instant death. It's death sentence. So the issue of whether the workers are going to retain jobs or not retain jobs is secondary.
But he said they will retain their jobs.
Yes,
no jobs will be lost.
Yes, he said so. But then I don't know what business plan he's put in place to ensure that happens, because an investor that comes to take an airport in order to run it profitably. And of course, if they have agreed that some good level of investment should be made in that airport in order to bring it up to a higher standard and bring it up to more level of profitability, inevitably these investors will have to cut down outgoings. In finance, you have your outgoings in terms of the money you spend, the expenditures, and you have, of course, the inflows, which is the income that you make, and it's the difference between the two determines your gross um, profit, and then you take out a few other expenses here and there, and both recurring costs and those that are constant costs. You take them all out before you were able to establish a net profit for the operation of that particular airport. I don't see the possibility that an investor will come and retain most of the redundant workers that I find milling around the entire airport. Some of them virtually doing nothing meaningful, but collecting salaries at the end of the day. A private investor that's come to really build the airport, develop it and take it to a point of profitability will not. It's not likely to employ more. Rather, he will look for areas that you have too many cooks. They say, there's this saying that too many cooks spoil the broth. Yes. So they are going to look for those too many cooks that are likely to spoil the broth to get them out of the way, and then reduce the outgoings, and therefore create a possibility of the airport being profitable. So, like you likely pointed out, that it might be a political statement. If you ask me, I don't see how more workers will be employed, and I don't see how those that are already there, will be retained. All of them will be retained. To tell you the truth, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see that happening. However, if he has agreed on some kind of magic that they are going to do, we are waiting to see. But let me bring this for our viewers to consider. Internationally speaking, in this whole wide world, anytime you find any government wanting to concession an airport, it is for the purpose of making that airport better. And it has to be, airports that are struggling, that are not as viable as they should be, and you need some investor to come do what it takes, including, weeding away redundants. Because at that point, you don't need redundants. You don't need people who just sit around and then at the end of the month collect salaries for doing little or nothing. You need people that are bringing value to the table. Those are the kind of workers you need. And that's the way you can guarantee profitability. What I expected the Honorable Minister to pay attention to and spend his energy doing is to look at these other airports that are currently struggling, that are not viable, and then invite the so-called experts who think they can turn around these airports. I think concession those ones to them. Say go ahead, and that's what. For instance, I give you a clear example. In the UK, the British government, rather than Heathrow, which is on its own a very successful airport, doing as well as it can. The one they had to give away was Gatwick, the Gatwick airport. As a matter of fact, the man who took it over and turned it around is a Nigerian.
Serious?
Yes, I'm trying to remember this man's name. you know, a financial expert, and he made. I'm trying to look for an appropriate word to describe what he did to Gatwick, and today Gatwick is effectively competing with Heathrow. But prior to his taking over, this Nigerian man taking over, Gatwick. Gatwick was virtually depending on Heathrow for its survivability, and it wasn't, not too many flights were coming there, and a whole lot of airlines don't even want to, or rather, didn't even want to, go to Gatwick except if forced to do so, But today, if you ask airlines to choose, they rather go to Gatwick, than come to Heathrow. That is the real concessioning. That is where it's required. And then again, internationally speaking, and I can use also India to give you an example of how these things work. Let me say this before I come to this particular point I want to bring to you. I have made it clear that my opinion is that every state of this federation, every state in Nigeria should have an airport. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's not viable. They can't even pay salaries, and they can't do this and they can't do that." People are just misunderstanding the what the economic value that airports bring to states. Is because of the misunderstanding that the fact that state governments are accused of, oh, you haven't paid salaries, you haven't paid workers pension, you haven't done this, you haven't built the roads in the state, and then all you want to do is do an airport. But that is clear misunderstanding of the contribution of aviation to the economy of the state. My opinion is that all states of the Federation of Nigeria should have airports. Once we have them in place, then it is time to create what I describe as state interconnectivity scheme. State interconnectivity scheme, that is to say, SIS, okay? By the way, this is my intellectual property. Anyone who's going to discuss it or amplify it from this point on must say according to Godike. Then you will be doing it legally. If you make it look as if it's your language and it's your idea, then you are beginning to steal somebody's intellectual property assets. So I'm bringing it to for even my viewers to hear and listen. If you amplify it, say according to Godike. We now create state interconnectivity scheme that will generate passengers. And then the next thing we need to do is we create what I also will describe as cross subsidization. And I'm going to explain that to you. Okay. Yes, cross subsidization. What it simply means is, rather than give away these 4 successful airports, you leave them in place and use funds generated from these airports to support the ones that are struggling, and then use the state interconnectivity scheme to create passenger flow. Passengers do not fall from the skies. They are generated. There's no airport that folds its arms and await passengers to come in and get business going anywhere in the world. So let me now take you to the experience of India. India has close to 100 and about 60 or 65 or 160 or 65 airports in the whole of India.
China has even 200.
Wonderful. Now, guess what? only 5% of those airports are viable. Only 5%. So you can imagine if you take the first 100, 5% of that is just you know, uh, you know five airports out of 100.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then you take the other one. So at the end of the day, you are dealing with close to about 7 or 8 airports out of all the multitude of airports. And why do you think that those airports are there? They are there because they are impacting positively to the economy of the locations.
The regions.
Yeah, the regions where they are, where they are, established, and the managers of the industry then have a way of subsidizing the other ones that must stay alive and help the economy of the states and the regions where they are established to run. Imagine for 1 second that all airports in Nigeria, or rather, all states in Nigeria have airports, and we carefully and and diligently plan and arrange interconnectivity schemes. That is to say, an average fixed wing flight needs a minimum of anywhere between 45 minutes and 1 hour flight to be viable. Because I use practical examples to tell you how these things work. If you have an airport in Oka, in Anambra State, and one is already in at Enugu or Asaba, depending on whether you want to head north, to Enugu, or you want to head south, to Asaba or Benin. Either way will do just less than 15 minutes. And taking a fixed wing jet into the air and bringing it down in less than less than 10 minutes is all waste of money, waste of resources, because everything put in that flight is just waste. The plane is busy, doing its pressurization each time it takes off, and shortly it lands, and then it's also doing this round tripping that is counting towards the maintenance of the aircraft. Don't forget that it's not like your car that you wait for the engine to begin to cough before you know that something is wrong and I need to go and service this car. No, the airplane is regulated. Everything is in the cycles. That one cycle is about taking off from one place and landing in the other. You complete a cycle. You take off again and land. In the other, you complete a cycle. Logs of those movements are kept by pilots, and as soon as the number of cycles that airplane is recommended for is completed, whether the aircraft is still sounding really, really good and feeling really good, it is due for some kinds of maintenance, and it must be done. And that's huge sums of money.
Yeah, but my question here is why is it difficult for government to adopt this model? It's not as if they don't have consultants. They do have consultants, and who may have advised them one or two things to do. But then it does seem nothing is working, because right now in Calabar, they have this Cali, and Aquibom has already floated this on Anambra. Gradually these airports are springing up, but it will appear there's no cohesion.
Well, it's the only man that will answer that question is the Honorable Minister Hadisirika himself. You need to invite him and put him on the spot and ask him to explain some of these things. And you see, it hurts me when I sit back with how much I know about the industry and how much of my time I spend, talking to the world, not just talking to Nigeria, but talking to the world about the way to go. And then it is seen that the man saying all this lives in Nigeria, and Nigeria is conducting itself in the manner that we are doing. If you were in my shoes, you will understand how I feel. It really hurts.
Yeah.
We can't we just can't go on this way. I don't want to speculate the reason. Those that are pushing for some of these things, what their interests are, and what they are pursuing, what interests they are pursuing, and what they want to really truly achieve. Because you can't wake up overnight, give away the successful airports instantly, sentencing to death the struggling ones.
But they have already done that.
Well, we'll wait and see how it goes. But I can tell you that, quote me, anytime, if he gets through with this plan, I give them maximum 2-3 years, and everything will begin to collapse like a pack of cards. Those that are so-called investors that will come to take over the airport, if you judge by what we've done in other sectors, they're not coming here to bring in money. They're still going to come here and borrow money from our local banks, which is not the idea and spirit of what we're talking about.
Yes.
We did it in electricity. We were expecting people to come in here and bring in money and establish our transmission lines, establish our generation capacity and capability, and stabilize power like it is in all the civilized nations of the world, where you never see power blink for 1 second in a day. Well, what did these guys do? They came in here, a lot of them totally inexperienced with the power sector, just jumped in there, began to cannibalize and sell the assets they found, and then brought us what we have on our hands after investing trillions and trillions of dollars. And yet, every day, our electricity is going off and on, and a whole lot of people do not even have it to use. How many years now have we done this type of electricity? Has it gotten better?
No.
It hasn't gotten better. It's exactly what you should expect in what Honorable Minister Hadi Serika is doing in the aviation sector. I think somebody that loves this nation needs to stop him. I was hoping that I would find an opportunity to sit one-on-one with him, to look him straight in the eyes and say, Honorable Minister, drop this, it won't work. Let's do something better for this nation. The other airports need to have the economy of the states where they are planted to run. If you say, oh, the people are not flying, there are ways of getting people to fly. I'm not going to share those kind of information anymore free on air, because it's being taken for granted now. And excuse me. And then it doesn't seem anyone is listening. Passengers do not fall from the skies. They are generated, and there are ways of doing these things. Okay, let me cite you one example, just one example of what can happen. If, for instance, Anambra Airport takes off, and the state finds that Enugu is suppressing it because Enugu is already there and established, Owerri is suppressing it because Owerri is already there and established, perhaps Asaba or Benin is also doing its bit, and you find your own people run into any of these other places to go and board, their flights rather than come to their home state. What do you want to do? you do subsidization for the first 1 year. For instance, if AP is coming from Lagos to Anambra State, says his ticket is 60,000, for instance, as I'm hearing that's what's going on. I haven't flown recently. That's what's going on now. Tickets are over the roof, and people who are desperate to fly because of the poor safety situation of the roads. So more people, the insecurity on our roads has generated more passengers for the airlines, and so airlines are taking advantage now and jacking up the air tickets. If a state government says, okay, this is my security vote that we don't seem to be doing the best we can with, let me subsidize flights for my people for the next 1 year.
Cali is doing it. I think from Calabar to Abuja, and 17,000.
Very well. This time sharing with you, I've shared it severally. I shared it on NTA. I shared it on WeFM. I shared it on ITV. And so there's possibility that somebody somewhere was listening and decided to buy into it. And so congratulations. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that somebody is already practicing what I've been recommending.
Okay.
So by so doing, you whet the appetite of the people to fly. And after 1 year of enjoying flying and doing business,
getting accustomed to the environment.
If you withdraw the subsidy, I'll tell you what, 90% will continue to fly.
Yeah.
Because they have acquired the appetite, and it's done their business well. It's done the economy of the state well. So any other increase in price will mean nothing to these individuals, and they will continue to fly. That is the trick. That is the way it works. That's what I call the cross part of the scheme of cross subsidization. You can have an internal one, and you can have an external one.
Okay.
You can have one big airport. Remember, it's still one management that is supposed to be controlling all these airports in the way our laws are couched.
Yeah.
It's still going to be FAN.
Yeah.
It's still going to be NCAA for the issues of safety and security and the rest of them. And so you can still ensure that the unsuccessful ones stay alive in order for them to continue to contribute, economically to the state where they are planted.
Anyway, the thing is that, considering that next year is almost election year, do you think they will have time for all these things we're talking about now? Election year, they're busy with campaigns and all the rest of them. And this is, I think, the last leg for this administration.
Well, call it last leg if you like. The administration should have an ambition to still come back to power. The fact that Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari has done his constitutionally allowed 8 years does not mean that his party, APC, should fold arms and lose power. No. APC should still be ambitious enough to and interested to still grab power. It's their right to have such ambition. Just like all the other parties that are trying, have the right to aspire, to grab the power. And so it's not a time to fold arms, and it's not a time to play. It's a time to get serious. So I don't see why electioneering campaign should consume all the workforce we have. It shouldn't. It's just like flying the airplane at a time when there are technical challenges. The instruction to pilots is always one person must concentrate on flying the plane, while others are dealing with the challenges, the technical challenges they have in the cockpit.
Yes.
If everybody is dealing with the challenges, what's going to happen? They will lose situational awareness, and the plane may just be descending without their knowledge. Before you say jack, you look out there, you are heading towards a building or towards a hill, and that's a crash. Just because you didn't dedicate one person to ensure that the flight is going on safely. I'm trying to give you an analogy how this works. Some individuals will be saddled with this electioneering thing, and others should concentrate in ensuring that our economy is bubbling.
Okay. All right, sir. That's the much you can take on this program. Viewers, join us same time, same day next week for another interesting edition. Have a wonderful evening.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.